and why it's so important to talk about kicking the habits and then getting good habits into your 2018. And that's what Tyler's here for. How are you?
Good, how are you doing?
Good. Happy New Year to you.
You too.
So this is a big one, because this time of year, whether you've made resolutions or not, but we all tend to take a look at our lives and say, what would I like to do this year? Do I have things that I'd like to get rid of? Do I have things that I'd like to add?
Yep.
And that can be really hard for a lot of people, especially if it's kicking an addiction.
Yeah, the addiction, and a lot of people, when they think kicking addiction, they think of things like smoking, where there's like actual withdrawal symptoms, but they neglect to think like a lot of behaviors that you normally do and then you suddenly get rid of, there's often like an empty void that is left over unless you replace it with something, or unless you tackle it somehow. So even things like, changing something that puts you outside your comfort zone can create feelings of anxiety, depression, agitation sometimes, anger. So a lot of times dealing with those quote-unquote withdrawal symptoms kind of a thing really helps us make that transition a lot easier.
Yeah, but I mean, and it is so hard, and a lot of times people will start and then they fall off track. And that's the, do you have any tips for that, like how people can stay on track? Yeah,
I mean, proper goal setting I think is the number one, most well-researched way to help people stay on track. And the other thing is not being afraid to fail. Failing usually always happens. It happens to everybody. Eventually you will fail for your last time. It's kind of like you just need to keep, every little hiccup, you don't see it as a sign of defeat. It's just a hiccup. You get back on. You keep at it, right? It's like no one's going to run a perfect stretch. Like that just almost never happens.
Right.
So having specific, there's a system called SMART.
SMART, right.
With goal setting, and it's being specific. So if you say like, I'm going to eat healthier, that's not a specific goal for a New Year's resolution. So something like I'm going to eliminate all sugar, or I'm going to stop nighttime junk food eating. Something specific like that. Or, I want to drop X number of pounds, or different waist measurements, whatever it might be, but it has to be specific. It has to be measurable, and if your first goal is specific, then it will be measurable. If you're being specific enough to put like a number on something, then you can obviously measure it. It has to be attainable. So
yeah, that's a big one for people.
That is a big thing, and a lot of times people just overstretch it. Right? They see their long-term goal and they instantly shoot right for it, and they don't have like steps to like get them there. Right? So often shooting for like easier to bite-sized short-term goals is a lot easier. You'll also have that reinforcement, like, oh, I made that goal. Next goal, I made that one. Whereas if you're just shooting for some crazy high up, far away target, you'll probably get defeated trying to get there, and you'll lose confidence and willpower to do
which
so.
is really hard. And then with that, it's SMART, which is specific, measurable, attainable, relevant.
Yeah, and realistic as well.
Right.
So just and it's one of those things where you don't want to be self-defeating. You don't want to limit yourself by thinking, oh, I can't do something, and that's what my realistic goal is. But you also want to be like, try to be as realistic as you can, right? If you're shooting for, like I said, if you're shooting for a goal, this is never going to happen anytime soon, which brings us to our last one, which is time-based. You can't just say, I want to lose X number of pounds, or I want to eat.
And I'm going to do it in 6
weeks.
You
have to have
give yourself some time.
And you want to have a due date on it as well, because otherwise, if you say, oh, I'm just going to quit smoking, that will probably run into January 2019 and January 2020. You have to put like a deadline on it in order to measure it, kind of a thing.
But again, as you're saying, make sure that it's attainable. Like as I said, I'm going to lose 20 pounds in 6 weeks. Well, that you might be able to do it, but you're not going to be able to sustain it.
Which is actually a very good point you bring up. When it comes to weight loss, a lot of people are I don't like to put a number on weight. I mean, obviously number, that's what weight is. But when it comes to, it's more than just like what the number is on the scale. For a lot of people, like getting fit implies a lot of times you're going to be gaining muscle, losing fat. So I don't want to obsess too much about the weight. But when we're talking weight, losing a pound per week is pretty much as far as you want to go with that. So if you see, advertisements claiming, lose 40 pounds in a month, you just really shot that number way out of the water, basically. So a pound per week, like 4 pounds a month, is realistic for someone who's trying hard. Which is great, and then that's something that you can maintain. Just so people know.
And that it's attainable. And now you brought in some options too, because there are some natural remedies that can help us to attain certain things that we want, like the goals that we're looking for. And you brought some of these in, and these are products to help like with mood, anxiety, sleep, withdrawals, all that kind of stuff. So take us through that.
So Shelley and I work with a men's drug and alcohol detox center, and so a lot of things that we do there's a lot of things we do. This is just a small sampling of them.
So you know they work because you've seen it with more of the extreme cases.
Yeah, and this isn't, these are people, exactly, they're not just trying to quit smoking, they're trying to come off like really hard drugs, very addictive drugs, and they do so, very effectively after a month, basically. So some of the things we use, N-acetylcysteine, I feel like I bring this one in quite often. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it's okay.
I bring it in quite often. It's kind of like a little wonder pill. It's used by psychiatry. It's used by hospitals. We use it for drug withdrawal and withdrawal symptoms in general. But N-acetylcysteine regulates dopamine and glutamate transmission. So for people who have who hit that reward button with whatever they're doing, whether it's smoking or whether it's hard drugs, that reward button that keeps getting hit every single time they do it, N-acetylcysteine really prevents that button from reacting. So it's like the reward system is really sort of thrown off with N-acetylcysteine. It also is a really potent detoxifier. So they use N-acetylcysteine for certain drug overdoses as well. So it gets rid of any sort of addictive chemicals in your system.
Wow.
It really sheds them out of your system much faster.
So that's cool.
And especially with smoking specifically, it's also mucolytic. So people who, when they quit smoking, a lot of times that gunk in their lungs will get churned up quite a bit and they'll start coughing and having a bit more wet cough, whereas before maybe they didn't. N-acetylcysteine actually breaks down mucus so that the likelihood that your lungs will feel much clearer faster.
That's amazing.
I actually find, I use it during allergy season, and like my airways, normally I go from I used to go through a whole Kleenex box like easily every 2 or 3 days, and now I blow my nose like 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, well, it's amazing more of this stuff is being talked about, and people are recognizing and realizing there's some natural options for them that get quickly to acupuncture at the end. But what are these ones for?
Those are things to help with managing mood and
which is another big one, right?
Yeah, when you feel depressed or anxious or angry, sometimes you get the nicotine withdrawal, you get really, keyed up really easily. Things like the Calm Pro really help to sort of settle your mood very quickly. Cortisol Manager is another one. It's just one of a number of different products that are similar, but it reduces the stress associated with any sort of big change.
Right.
So it doesn't have to be, withdrawal symptoms specifically. It could just be giving you the motivation to get to the gym, or dealing with some sort of behavior that takes a bit more willpower and energy.
And that's this one here?
Yeah, and it's I usually tell people to give it start it about a month before you intend to make changes. So this would have been good to do like December 1st.
Right.
But it's something that usually it's I call it like willpower in a capsule. It's something that usually after I find 28 days, like about a month, you really start to notice that things that were like daunting on day one, like getting to the gym, or that's going to take so much effort and willpower, are like no problems by day 28. That's
really great. It's amazing. And then quickly just talk about acupuncture, because this is a lot of people have found great success using acupuncture.
Yeah, so acupuncture is used quite a bit for a number of different things. Musculoskeletal disorders like aches and pains is one big one, but addiction is another one. I just brought, a lot of people are afraid of needles. I just brought in, I don't know if you can see this on camera. This is
They're very tiny.
You can barely see it. It's like the width of a hair, and we actually have one of the points that is often done in acupuncture first is called Do 20. It's a point right on top of the head. It's kind of like the master point, so it's the one that's...
That kind of creeps me out, putting a needle in the top
yeah,
of the
right
head.
in your skull. It doesn't go into your skull.
I mean, you could actually come in and talk about that another time, but it is a good way. Yeah. A lot of people have had success through it, and these are all great things. You guys coach people at your office now. They can come in for help, a consultation, because a lot of times we need that. We just need that little extra. So you can check out Full Circle. Go to fullcirclehealthcare.ca. It's great what you guys are doing, because you now have more time for the hands-on stuff. You can call 905-930-7769 for more information. Thanks, Tyler.